This is the very first Apple Watch, and this is the latest Apple Watch Series 10. 10 years difference, let's see how they compare, and if you can still use a 10-year-old smartwatch in 2025. The very first Apple Watch, also known as the Series 0, came in two different sizes, both 38mm and 42mm version. And it feels kind of like a full circle moment because the smallest size of the Series 10 is now 42mm. So the smallest size, the largest size. I actually found a pretty mint condition stainless steel version of the first Apple Watch, and it is so much heavier on the wrist than the titanium version of the Series 10. The design aesthetic hasn't really changed that dramatically at all. There's still that digital crown, the side button, and overall it just looks way more contemporary than I was expecting a 10-year-old watch to feel. Even though the display technology has come a long way in these past 10 years, I am surprised that the Series 0 still looks as good as it actually does. It's not as bright in outdoor situations, of course, as the Series 10, and it doesn't, of course, have an always-on display. But the same overall navigation system, the look and feel of watchOS hasn't changed as dramatically as you might think. If you bring up that app list for the first time in 2025, it looks very similar to how watchOS 11 looks on this Series 10. However, you can't have that list view of apps on the first Apple Watch. Now, as you can see, some of the apps appear to be grayed out and don't seem to be working on the Series 0. However, they actually do seem to still be pulling information from the phone, say like the weather app and news, for example, which surface information on those glances on the watch faces. Of course, the overall speed of the interface is nowhere near as fast as it is on the Series 10 with the latest chip. And if you're playing it along at home and wondering if you can get away with using an older Apple Watch on a newer device, let me tell you, I was genuinely surprised that I paired the Series 0 with an iPhone 13 Pro running the latest version of iOS 18. I love that it's not obsolete in that fact after 10 years. Sure, no one's really probably going out to buy a Series 0 in 2025, but the fact that you can still use it is a win in my book. And let's be a little bit shallow just for 1 minute, because take a look at the packaging and check this out. Plastic case, feels super sturdy, and the watch itself actually comes it's almost like a ring box. It's like a proper watch box. I kind of love that, even all the way down to the leather loop. Remember when there were Apple Watch bands made of leather? Yep. And it also came in its own nice hard carrying case. $149 10 years ago. I don't want to know what that is with inflation these days. Now let's go through and see what some of the watch faces look like, because on this version of watchOS, there were definitely nowhere near as many watch faces as we have today on watchOS 11. But it's not as different as you might expect. Again, genuinely surprised. There are about 12 watch faces on the Series 0 plus and a Hermes watch face. And on the Series 10, there are, well, I'm not going to go through and count them all, but there's a lot more. But really, those same classic ones that you probably know and love from the Apple Watch are still all there on the Series 0 to the Series 10. Being able to add certain complications to different watch faces was also something you could do on the first Apple Watch. Yeah, nowhere near as many as you can add on some of the watch faces on the Series 10, but you still have a good level of customization there. And if we go into the workout app on the Series 0, you'll see that there are 10 different workout types. But if we come into the Series 10 and take a look at how many workout types there are, yeah, look, I'm not going to sit and count them. I'm not going to tell you about all of the other things that you can do with the workout app, because you probably know that by now. The other main difference in the hardware of the Series 0 compared to the Series 10 when it comes to workout tracking specifically is there's no GPS in the Series 0. It did rely on taking your iPhone around with you everywhere to get that GPS data essentially, whereas newer Apple Watches from the Series 1 and onwards did have onboard GPS. There are some significant differences when it comes to the sensors on each of these watches, of course. The Series 0 only really had that optical heart rate sensor on board, whereas the Series 10 has a much more effective heart rate sensor. It's got things like sleep apnea notifications, an ECG app, It's also got blood oxygen in some countries around the world. And overall, when you do have them on your wrist, you'll feel a little bit more of the bulge of the sensor on the Series 0 than the flattened feel on the Series 10. But when it comes to the other smartwatch features, there's still a lot of the same functionality you get on the latest watches you do on the original watch. You can obviously use a speaker and microphone to respond to messages and take quick calls on your wrist if your iPhone is within range on the Series 0. And you can also do that on cellular on the Series 10 without your iPhone in range. Let's do a quick comparison of both voice to text and also the voice assisted to see how much faster it is on the newer watch. Just out of curiosity, this is nowhere near a fair comparison. It's not supposed to be. You'll notice on the Series 10 on the side, the speaker grill is significantly larger than it is on the Series 0 for a couple different reasons. It's louder. But also you can now play music through the Series 10 speakers. Probably the biggest surprise for me has been battery life, because if you got a brand new Series 0 fresh out of the box in 2015, you would have got the same day and a half battery life as you get out of the Series 10. Yes, the Series 10 can do significantly more. It has a much brighter display and it's got so many more features on board. But can we have some more battery life, please? So 10 years later, how does the Apple Watch Series 0 stack up? Surprisingly well. As I said a couple of times in the video, I was really shocked at how contemporary a Series 0 feels. The fact that it not only pairs to the latest version of iOS, but a lot of the functionality and overall design aesthetic is the same. A lot of the apps still work as expected. Yeah, there's not the same range of third-party apps that are compatible because obviously it doesn't have a newer chip and it doesn't have support for a newer version of watchOS beyond watchOS 4.3. But maybe that doesn't really matter. Look, no one's really going to go out and seek out a Series 0 to use in 2025 if you've never had an Apple Watch before. But this goes to show that you absolutely can get away with using an older watch if you don't mind losing out on a few of those bells and whistles. And we love the fact that the technology is not suddenly obsolete after 2, 5, 10 years. It's still usable. So if I'm still doing this in 10 years, I would love to revisit the Series 10 versus the Series, I don't know, 20, whatever it's going to be in 2035. My God, 2035. Yeah, and if this is still working, I will do a 20-year comparison. Why not? Hey, thanks so much for watching. I hope this was fun for you to watch because it was a lot of fun for me to put together. If you want to support my channel, please hit that subscribe button, give the video a like and a thumbs up, and drop me a comment because I would always love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.